Work performance information, work performance reports, work performance data. You've heard it all. But you've also heard of quality metrics and quality control measurements. So the whole dialogue of metrics, measurements, data, reports, information is all around the PMBOK guide. So right now we're going to continue with that thought, and we're going to talk about importance of key metrics up front. So David, what are your thoughts about metrics and the value to the business?
This is a big area, Phil. I think everybody knows that metrics are key, and I think that's pretty well understood by most of the PMs that work in industry and even other disciplines. Mm-hmm. I think the key becomes when you peek under the covers a little bit, and that is in a couple different areas. First of all, data integrity. Start there. Make sure you validate that your data has integrity. Sometimes we get into a point where the information, we have so much information out there, and it's pulled from so many different sources. Do we know the source? Is it real-time data? Is it not? Where is it pulled from? How much is it automated? Is it manual inputs? So you need to try to make sure you have a comfort level of the integrity of the data, because they say garbage in, garbage out. So it starts there. But furthermore, I think the other thing that I see is the metrics and the measurements you put is so much dependent upon who your audience is. If you're working as a project manager, or part of your project is working with individuals that are looking at production issues, let's say, basically you put in a new release, and you have some, from that testing, you have production issues. Well, each one of those production issues needs to be fixed, addressed. So tracking and having metrics on that is really key. However, at the executive level, it's entirely different. Right. The attention span's different. It's you have to design. There it looks less like an Excel spreadsheet. It looks more like a graphical view. It could be for the same production issues. What's the aging show in terms of how long it takes for a production issue? Not all of them. What are your top maybe 10 production issues maybe that are aged or have the biggest impact? Maybe it has, where's the volume? This month our production backlog getting bigger or getting smaller? So again, metrics are important, but it's also, you have to tailor it to your audience. Right. But first of all, it starts with data integrity, and then it has to align with your key metrics that you're establishing for your project. And then you're going to have reports based on your audience and what they need to look at. And what so often I see is that same report is given to the different layers in the organization, and you lose the attention span, or it isn't digestible. Your audiences vary greatly about what they're working on and what they're involved in, between an executive, mid-layer, first-line management, or people that are actually doing the work with the business. Yeah. Those measurements and metrics are different. So I see that as a constant. I have to work with the PMs, especially new PMs coming in, about all the way through about who their audience is and what's important to that audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, the PMI, like in the PMBOK guide, they talk about plan X management, where X is the knowledge area. So you have plan schedule management, plan cost management. And one of the things people just totally fly past is the fact that what you're talking about now, which I'll coin a phrase here, measurement and metric appropriation, they don't really sit down and make it appropriate to the report. They're just coming out with the same old report that they've been using for the past 20 years, but not thinking, what will really make this of value to anyone receiving it? Instead of giving people a one-size-fits-all, how about making it more customized and appropriate, for the different audiences? So this really hits the nail right on the head. And I think, all of this, it boils down to wanting to add value. Because someone who's thinking about value will be thinking about the metrics being appropriate for the audience, not just throwing a whole kitchen sink. And then this whole dialogue goes back to the importance of leading, which you talked about in the beginning. So, great leaders, they think about the value that they're bringing and the value they're adding instead of the volume of reports that they're delivering. So I think it becomes very important to speak a little bit more about leadership and management. So leading teams and managing teams. I know, David, you've been there, done that, in different organizations. I always get excited speaking to people who have is it PHR or SPHR?
It says PHR.
My goodness, can you imagine that? He's done the SPHR. So I'm going to have a field day here. I'm going to have a field day talking to David about leading and developing teams when we come back.